Hello everyone. In this video I'm going to be using long division. I want to review how to use long division to divide my dividend of x to the fifth plus x to the fourth minus 7x to the third plus 6x plus 6 by the divisor of x squared plus x minus 1. I'll be using long division instead of synthetic because my divisor is not in the form x minus c. It has an x squared. Before I do that, I want to change my dividends so that I have all terms present, meaning that in descending order all my variables are accounted for. I have an x to the fifth, x to the fourth, x to the third, but no x squared. So when I do long division, I want to account for that by putting in a 0x squared. So what I'm actually going to be dividing is the expression x to the fifth plus x to the fourth minus 7x to the third plus 0x squared plus 6x plus 6. So I have it set up. When I do long division, I'm going to focus on the first term of both my divisor and dividend. So my first term here, and I'm going to divide. I'm going to say what is x to the fifth divided by x squared. And since that is, so this becomes x to the third. I'm going to put that on top of my bar. So again, divide the first term into the first term, x squared into x to the fifth. I get x to the third. Now, using the same form of long division that you may have learned in elementary school, I'm going to take my x to the third and multiply it times all three parts of my divisor and put them under the appropriate spot in the long division area. So x to the third times x squared gives me x to the fifth. X to the third times x gives me x to the fourth. X to the third times negative 1 gives me minus x cubed. Now I want to subtract, and with long division we always subtract. So when I subtract x to the fifth minus x to the fifth, they cancel out. X to the fourth minus x to the fourth, this one also cancels out. Now I have negative 7x to the third minus a negative x to the third. One thing with long division is you want to keep track of your negatives. They're easy to mix up. So I like to write out what I'm subtracting, which is again negative 7x to the third minus a negative x to the third. So this really becomes plus positive. Negative 7 plus 1 gives me a negative 6x to the third. Now the rest of these terms come down. This is one cycle. Now I'm going to repeat it. And again, I'm going to focus on the lead terms. So my x squared, and now my negative 6x to the third. I will divide. And when I divide, I'll get negative 6x. And that goes up here, so minus 6x. Now the same thing, I'm going to multiply my 6x times all three parts of my divisor. So negative 6x times x squared gives me a negative 6x to the third. Times x gives me a negative 6x squared. And times negative 1 gives me a positive 6x. Now once again I will subtract. Negative 6x to the third minus negative 6x to the third comes out to be negative 6x to the third plus 6x to the third, so they add up to 0. Now when I have a 0 minus 6x, or I should say 0 minus a negative 6x squared, it becomes plus plus. So positive 6x squared. 6x minus 6x cancels out. And lastly, my 6 drops down. So plus 6. Once again, I'll go first term divided by first term, so my x squared into 6x squared. And when I divide, I get 6, which goes up here, positive 6. Now again, I multiply through. So 6 times x squared gives me 6x squared. 6 times x gives me 6x. And negative 6. Now I should add up here, since I don't have a 0, I don't have an x term, I'm going to put a plus 0x so that I can subtract. Now when I subtract, these will cancel. 0 minus 6 gives me a negative 6x. 6 minus a negative 6 gives me plus 12. Again, 6 minus negative 6 plus 12. Once again, I want to look at first term to first term. So that's my x squared, and then my negative 6x. Now, the difference here is, when I say negative 6x divided by x squared, I end up with a variable in the denominator. And that's my cue to stop the process, to stop doing long division. When I have after dividing the first term to first term, I end up with a variable in the denominator. Again, that's my cue. Therefore, I know that my quotient for this problem is x to the third minus 6x plus 6, and my remainder is negative 6x plus 12. Now in proper form, we would say my answer is x to the third minus 6x plus 6 plus my remainder of negative 6x plus 12 divided by my divisor. So my final answer is x to the third minus 6x plus 6 plus my remainder of negative 6x plus 12 divided by the divisor. So this is the process for long division. Obviously it is a longer problem, but first I want to make sure that all my terms in descending order are accounted for. In this case it was my 0x squared. I follow the same process for all parts of long division, always first term to first term, until I get to a point where I have, as in this case, after I divide, a variable in the denominator. That's how I know to stop, and that whatever I'm left with is my remainder.